Again for another episode and to have another guest on with me. First off, we got to take care of the sponsors. We have the Vermin Supreme Institute. Our purpose is to inspire social evolution through disruption of authoritarianism, to promote compassionate activism, and to spread knowledge of redacted history. Through the use of humor, direct action, and mutual aid, we uplift the disaffected, the disenfranchised, and the disempowered. And also, I want to mention that we have completed the fundraising for the Love in Action fundraiser benefiting the homeless camps in Reno, Nevada. We have the supplies, I believe, delivered now up in Reno, and next weekend they will be distributing them to the camps up in Reno. So thank you everyone who contributed, and thank you to the folks in Reno who are doing the work and distributing all the goods up there. We really appreciate all the help. Next up, we have Brewed Coffee in Lexington, Kentucky. If you are in Lexington, check out Brewed Coffee and Beer Drinkery, and you can check out my affiliate link in the comments to buy mugs, shirts, hats, masks, tote bags, all sorts of different stuff. So check it out. The link will be in the comments section after we're done. And lastly, I want to mention not only the Post-Political Podcast Shop, but the promo that we're doing right now. Basically, we have a few items with the slogan "Be Gay, Do Crime," and basically we are trying to help the Trans Resource Network of Louisiana, who helps with trans people and the gender non-conforming folks down in Louisiana, trying to get to whether it be housing or surgeries or anything else that they need. They're really a great organization, and I would love it if our fans could go out and support them, whether it be going onto the PayPal or going and buying any one of the pieces of merchandise. Like I said, 100% of the proceeds go to that group down in Louisiana, and I thank you all for the support. All right, so next up, we have our guest introduction. I'm very excited. This is one of the local guests I have here in Massachusetts, which I'm pumped about. So Yahaira Lopez, and I got to check that after you come back on because I didn't check that previously. So she is a mother, community leader, autism advocate, and one of the founders of the South End Roxbury Community Partnership. That is a grassroots advocacy group seeking to improve the quality of all life in their community. And the group has partnered with a ton of different organizations throughout their community. And then we're going to talk about some of them tonight and what they're working on doing. So let's bring her in. How's it going?
Hey, what's up? What's up, guys?
How did I do with your name? Did I get it really off or was I close?
Every time, I always knew in school when somebody was going to call my name, and I'm like, it's Yahaira. It's me. That's me.
All right. I should have asked you before.
The extra R, man.
we were in so much conversation before the show that I didn't get a chance to ask you actually before we went live. So I apologize, but thank you for correcting me. And no, I'm super excited to have you. I know I just started talking with you all probably a couple months ago. And I've been learning tons. I've been going to some of the community forums you guys are doing. And I just want to hear, let's hear kind of the introduction of the partnership community group. And we'll jump into a bunch of different stuff.
So first of all, I want to give a huge shout out to the people that have been doing this work before I got involved. So you're going to have two of them on. So a huge shout out to Domingos de Rosa, Leon Rivera, Carlos Enrique, Susie McGlover, Janina, Ricard. There's been a group of individuals that way before my involvement have been working the trenches and advocating for, as the city wants to call it now, mass and caste. But for those who grew up in that location and have been advocating for it. I know, I apologize, but I'm not going to apologize for it. It's always going to be known as methadone mile to us. Because if its origin, it started with, the evolution of methadone clinics. So, again, to us is always going to be methadone mile. So back in mid-August, I did something that I know my mom wasn't going to approve of, but I had to do it. So I posted on my personal Facebook some images showcasing needles, feces near my mom's back door of her property.
Yep.
And so I, copied and pasted the email that I had sent to elected officials of the Boston City Council and some of the state reps. So I copied and pasted that email, posted it with the images, and boom, it just kind of turned into what we all know now as the South End Roxbury Community Partnership. So, my mom has been on the same block. My family's been on that same block for over 25, 30 years. So I grew up there when the needle exchange program was approved and put out there in the early 90s, which started with the prevention of HIV/AIDS. And now it's just turned into a consumption site,
right,
where individuals are now given needles to, which I'm assuming that the needles are still for the preventing of diseases, right? But right now it's basically a free fall for individuals who are using illegal substances, shooting up heroin or fentanyl, whatever it is that people want to call it. To sit literally on our sidewalks, on our property stoops, in our highways, to literally inject themselves in broad daylight at nighttime in front of children, having sexual intercourse in the public eye, in front of everyone, on your property, on school playground. And we've been demonstrating and advocating since late August. Our first community standout was September 3rd, where we had the community, both the South End and the Roxbury, for the first time, to really partner up with each other on this issue. And we did a community standout. We did it every Thursday for about close to 4 or 5 months. Rain, any type of weather, we were out there every Thursday. We've stopped traffic. We shut down the highway. And we've just, canvassing the community, passing out flyers and say, hey, join our group, join our, our advocacy, send emails, doing call blitz, all that stuff that goes on, that we're not getting paid for. Okay. We're just community residents in that community who believe that our community should be comfortable for all, which does not exclude. And I want to be clear, because we've been attacked on this. We've been called NIMBYs and everything. This does not exclude individuals who are navigating an addiction. What we're saying is what's happening out there should not be happening out there, and some form of intervention has to happen because it's inhumane. And it's a public health crisis.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think we were talking a little bit before, and we've talked about this a couple of times now. It's not a kind of one size fits all issue. It is very kind of multifaceted, I guess. There's a lot of different parts that need to be kind of weighed and talked about. And I feel like a lot of folks just don't want to have the conversation. They just, as soon as they hear, oh, this is the problem that I'm having, just, not, this is the only problem. This is the problem that I'm having right now with my mother's property. They immediately shut that off. And like you said, they say hurtful things that is in no way accurate to your character or what you stand for, but they feel attacked somehow and immediately go back on the defense. In reality, this is an issue that requires conversations. I mean, there's a lot of different folks, this is affecting children. This is affecting the folks that are using at these consumption sites as well. And it really is, it's one of it drew me in because I didn't know the full, kind of picture of everything. I definitely believe in decriminalizing all of these things so that it's not a police problem. It's not someone going through the jail system. It's something that can be seen as a community health issue and being worked as. But it sounds like a lot of those services have kind of broken down as well over the time since, back in the 90s when it was instituted versus now when, really it doesn't seem like the folks there are able to receive any of the help that they need. And it's kind of overflowed into the community now, surrounding community.
I mean, and I think that I think everyone in this group knows that we don't want to criminalize individuals that have addiction, right?
Right.
An addiction is a disease. And it requires equitable treatment.
Yep.
It requires real interventions. What that is, whether it's a continued push of opioid prescriptions after, we don't know. We're not doctors.
Right.
But what we're saying is, how can you establish a location with this many services and expect for someone to actually get clean?
Right.
When the minute that they step out of, whether it's a sober home, whether it's a shelter, they're going back out to the same place that they're fighting against to not be there, and have a job, to get housing or get reacquainted with their family members,
Right.
their children. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's the whole situation is ugly, and I think that we've been the only group to successfully say, "Hey, this is an uncomfortable conversation.
Yeah.
But we have to have this conversation." Bottom line.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And the beautiful part about our group is that we have individuals. So a huge shout out to William. William, is a former addict. He has been in the prison system for selling drugs right on the mile. He's been very honest. We also have the mother of Damian Hughes, whose son was murdered on July, what was it, July 31st?
Yep.
It was in July, right at the doorsteps of the needle exchange program in the shelter.
Right.
Literally at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, and this mom, will tell you, she goes, "I came from the suburbs to bring my son to Boston because this is the place where when I was navigating my own addiction, this is where I came. I went to Long Island. I got the help. I got the treatment, so she brought her child to the same place where she got the help.
Right.
And unfortunately, due to the lack of resources that are available for everyone, because they closed down Long Island, what was it, 2000? I can't even remember.
Yeah,
I don't know. I can't remember. But it was in 2016 or something, 14.
Yeah.
Guys, I don't know. Mingos, if you guys are watching, please let me know. And her son was murdered there. And she has found peace in our group because she feels like, she carries a burden of, she feels like it's her fault.
Right.
Parent, right? And she's finding this group as a sanctuary to say, I feel like I did something wrong as a parent, but I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna fix it, so no one else's child ends up like my child, right? And the facts of that case is the person who brutally stabbed her son was banned from that location,
Right.
and had stay away orders from being in that location, but was still in that location, right? And so, methadone mile is not just people who have addiction. There's a large population of individuals who have mental illness.
Yep.
And we also have a lot of individuals that are neither addicts nor have mental illness, but are simply homeless.
Right.
Right? And it's not simply, so let me, because being homeless is not simple, but are homeless, right? So you have 3 different populations of individuals in one location. And it's just, honestly, it's sad. When you drive down there, first of all, everyone's whole life is in the public eye for everyone to see.
Right.
Right? So here we are being called NIMBYs and called all these other things, that we don't want individuals in our community, and oh my goodness, and poverty tourism, and all these things that keep getting thrown at us, when the reality is that the services are there, have a cap, and they can only serve a certain amount of people anyway. And they know, right? So people are coming from different communities throughout the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and outside of the state of Massachusetts to come there, right? And their needs can't be met. So these individuals then get stuck in an area because they can get access to drugs at any given time.
Right.
And no shade to our DA. I like our DA, but our DA is not, believes, as you said, in decriminalizing addiction.
Yep.
And I think most of us believe in that, honestly.
Right.
There has to be different forms. But the reality is that, everything that's impacting that community is, people are breaking an entry. That's something that she's not willing to prosecute. What is it? Petty theft. She's not willing to prosecute for that. And again, I don't disagree. Distribution with intent to, possession with intent to distribute. She's not prosecuting for that. So
Right.
literally everything that's happening on the mile is why the community is upset and there is no accountability. So
Yep.
for us is like, if you guys are not going to prosecute people, which again, we don't disagree with that, right? People have an addiction. They need help. And prison may be good for some people and it may not be good for other people, right?
Right.
But the question is, what is the plan?
Right.
So people are out there doing all these things. At the end of the day, the drugs that they're using are illegal.
Yep.
Federally, they are illegal.
Right.
They've never been, there isn't no law that's changed that says, hey, cocaine is a free fall, y'all. Let's just have a cocaine party over here. You know what I mean? And let's chill. It's still an illegal substance.
Right.
So my issue that I have with policies and things that are changing, we can't put all these changes out in place if people don't have a plan.
Right.
Because as you understand politics, right? So I live in this location. My car insurance is going to be higher than people that are living in the suburbs, right? Because crime, people are going to continue to break into my car and everything, right? So our property taxes, everything's high. And then, am I at fault for saying, do you know what my car insurance rate looks like right now?
Right. No, and at the end of the day, you're trying to do the best for you and your family as well. It's there's no that should not be something that people are going after or anything like that. And I think too that there's like you were saying, you brought up a lot of good points there. I think there's there's got to be a plan. We have in our kind of libertarian movement, there's a lot of folks who have very radical ideas about kind of a future state, but there's some understanding that things have to be kind of incrementally moved in that direction, and in order to do so, to not hurt folks and not kind of tear down different communities, especially trying to make sure that people have the services that they need as they need them. If we go ahead and say, okay, we're not going to do not going to prosecute all these things, which at the end of the day could be a good state for the future. Mm-hmm. You can't do that when everyone is going to one location to try and find some help, maybe, or in some cases, maybe trying to find supply or whatever. That's such a concentrated group of individuals who are all looking to do that one thing that the services are not, in place to handle that kind of load. And B, the community surrounding it is not really set up, I guess, to handle that many folks coming in and trying to help those folks. And like you said, it's not a, I've seen some, comments of folks going off and stuff, and it seems like they're, not looking at the full picture of the problem. And I definitely, I'm lucky because I got to know you and, Domingos and Leon a little bit, but hearing the kind of the full picture of, and not even, I've got, a portion, a good portion of the picture, but maybe not the entire picture. It helps me understand, how going, too quickly, maybe with some of these plans really can hurt the community significantly, in many different ways. And I think, so some of the things that you guys have done, bringing in folks from the public officials, local public officials who are saying they're going to help and do something, but not really offering up much of a plan. There is a real need there. And I think you all have been the only group I've seen that's offered up suggestions or ideas that are not just political theater and trying to make it sound good, but actually trying to help people in these communities. And I think it's in not only that, but you're also, I don't want to talk too long, but you also are doing so much good. Every weekend I see folks out there distributing food and supplies to folks and making sure that folks are as comfortable as possible given the situation. And I think, it's such a positive thing you're trying to do, but there's so much momentum rolling against you, with the 10 plus 20 plus years, 30 plus years, I guess, that it's very difficult for the community to kind of overcome this. And there's something that, I think the community could work with the local officials, and that's what you all are working to do. And can you tell us a little bit more, about some of these other groups that you're working with, that you partner with, and kind of how that's helped, even build the momentum even further towards kind of community action, I guess.
So the beautiful part about the South End Roxbury Community Partnership is that, like we were talking before we started airing, is that these two communities for so long worked in silos, right? Yep. The South End community has several different civic associations. They work strategically. They stay on top of all these dialogues and always connecting with the elected officials. And they've kind of dominated this conversation for a long time, where Roxbury has done equally the same. But, it's a different location. People work hard, have probably many children. Who knows? There's just a different dynamics financially between the two groups. Not a lot, because, Roxbury has a history of Malcolm X and, we have $1 million homes there too. Yep. It's just a different dynamic, right? Yeah. And so we've been able to bring two communities together that have worked separately on this issue to say, hey, listen, this is not a black and white thing. This is not a purple and pink thing. This is impacting the South End. This is impacting Roxbury. How can we work together and build the same political capita and political, advocacy, constituent advocacy to say, hey, this can't happen. This shouldn't be happening in the South End, and it shouldn't be happening in Roxbury. So right. We've been, told you guys are like the first group to do that. So yeah. Then, we've been partnering up with, huge shout out to Justin Downey and James Bradley, who are the founders of the Mass App Project. If you guys don't know this group, please follow them on social media. It's a group of individuals who were former addicts, who are in recovery, who at one point in time were on methadone mile. And they've turned into a program that want to get people out of methadone mile and asking, sober homes and other, recovery and treatment facilities to sponsor someone to get them, the help that they deserve outside of that location.
Yep.
So we've partnered up with Bridge Kids Give Back. Huge shout out to Nancy Rivera. She is from Cambridge, and she's seen our efforts. She was connected with us. Nancy likes to cook, so she came in and say, listen, I've been doing this kind of just in my personal space and right. Lowell, giving back in Lowell and Lawrence in that area. How can I help, bring my efforts to the work you guys are doing? And we just kind of been making magic happen. And the beautiful thing is that we're meeting people and we're saying, hey, you guys want to help? Like, why not? Like, we're not a nonprofit. We're not interested in turning into a nonprofit. For the reason being is that typically in a lot of the work that people do in this space, in advocacy, people turn into a nonprofit. Next thing you know it, you start getting funding, and it kind of feels like the scope of your work changes, right? Because now you feel like, hey, the city of Boston is funding me, so maybe I can't attack them anymore or hold them to task, right? So trying to fight that stigma and saying, nope, you guys are not going to silence us by giving us money. We're just constituents, everyday people with either grew up there, still have family there. And we're saying, hey, it's been over 30 years, y'all. What y'all going to do about it? And not to mention other groups like Bear from Bridgewater, which is a group of students. who are trying to bring in back, some old school methods of, prevention. So they're bringing back prevention into the conversation,
Yep.
and they're specifically targeting the younger population, the youth population, and youth of color, because it seems like out in the New Bedford, Bridgewater area, they're seeing an uptick of increase of numbers of addiction.
Yep.
And it seems like the population there are more younger youth, and what's happening is that a lot of them are leaving their communities. Like we all know what's happening on methadone mile, is that then they end up on methadone mile.
Right.
And then, the reality is that whether we like it or not, once you get to methadone mile, you might be stuck there for a while.
Right. Yeah, and I mean that's seeing all of the different, I think not just the issue itself is kind of multifaceted, I guess, but the work that you all are doing is really multifaceted. Coming at the public health crisis the way it is, trying to not only take care of the folks who are there currently and trying to get services or whatever, but also trying to make sure that that what can't be handled there is also being helped in some effort. I mean, it's more than what's being done today by the public officials and stuff as well. And it's amazing that there are folks that are so passionate and able to get stuff like this done. And we're having a lot of these folks on the show in the next few weeks here, so it'll be good to kind of hear from everyone and hear all the different perspectives on this too.
One of our youngest activists is 5 years old. So
Yep.
Huge shout out to Ashlyn. Ashlyn has literally been on our Zooms speaking to elected officials and saying, listen, like, I come out from the front of my house, there's people pooping on my stoop. And, she was the one that when we started the chant, where is Baker? And she was like, nobody knows. Charlie Baker is our governor.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, and she's been giving the a city award, for being our youngest member and speaking very truth for a 5-year-old, and being able to really speak those words of the things that she's seen on her front doorsteps when her mom was walking out the front door. And that's many of the kids in the South End, so, the beautiful kind of going back to the beautiful part of the partnerships that we build is that we have the Mass App Project who's been honest to say, listen, I've been out here. I know it, I don't think anybody wants to be pooping on anyone's stoops.
Right.
Nobody wants to be, this is an addiction, and we want to help bring some type of sense of community building to this issue, because we were once out here, and
Yep.
we know that maybe we could have been people that were breaking into your cars, and you know what I mean? So the beautiful part is that you have people who are saying, even those that were on the mile, that are saying this shouldn't even be happening.
Right.
And then the other part about it is that due to the pandemic, our former mayor, who's now going to, is the Secretary of Labor, the Labor Secretary, he's going down with, down to the town to DC.
Right.
He approved a consumption site, a temporary consumption site in that location. Nobody in the communities got the memo.
Right.
We just was like, wait a minute. There's way more going on out here than it typically is. We seen more people out there. We started seeing a whole lot more. And we're like, what is going on out here? And then boom, after finally barking so much, hey, this Mayor Marty Walsh approved a consumption site without the consent or the conversation or a hearing or any type of conversation with the community. And not to mention that prior to us doing all this work and demonstrations and meetings, it's been 10 years since the city of Boston has had a hearing on what they call mass and cast, and we know as methadone.
Right.
10 years. No hearing for 10 years.
Right.
And then in 2019, they created, the city of Boston, Mayor Marty Walsh created a task force, a mass and cast task force. In that task force is elected officials, both from the South End and Roxbury, the people who programs that work with individuals navigating addiction, a few residents, more residents and members of the South End versus Roxbury, which is, that was also problematic.
Right.
And one, the meetings are not public. Two, we recently, after tagging them on Twitter, Facebook, and saying, hey, where's the meeting minutes at? You guys have a website. What do we know what you guys are talking about?
Right.
And who communicate? So finally, so huge shout out to Dakota from Substantive. He put in a request to get records of the task force, and he got access, along with Marla from one of our members, got access to the reports, which showcase there wasn't really no consistency as far as like the layout of taking note.
Right.
Half of our elected officials were missing in those meetings. And then again, how do you have a task force if the objective is to really give people the opportunity to get treatment and recovery? And you don't have the Department of Mental Health on that task force. You don't have the Department of Developmental Services, DDS, because they know some people may have disabilities, learning disabilities, right? And then you don't have the housing department.
Right.
So how do you guys have this whole task force, but nobody even knows what the objective is?
Right.
And so it's been, what we're saying is make it all make sense, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make no sense. It doesn't make sense. Nobody's had a hearing on this for 10 years. And finally in November, there was a hearing that was approved by the Boston City Council President, Ms. Kim Janey, who's now going to step up to be a temporary interim mayor. She put it forward, but 10 years, right? And let's talk, guys, that meeting was 5 hours. 5 hours. And we constituents got the time to talk after we heard everyone else talk. And again, I'll be honest with you, none of it made no sense. It seems like everyone's just dancing in circles. We keep saying the same thing. We're not going to arrest our way out of this, and we're going to decriminalize. Dude, we know this. We don't disagree with you.
Right.
The question is, where is the plan? So if you're not going to arrest people and you're not, we're decriminalizing, what is a plan to making sure we don't have hundreds, not 20, 30 people. We have close to 200 or more people outside every day in broad daylight, injecting themselves, having sex in public, stealing your cars, stealing your packages. Okay. And that does not include, the little mall plaza, not that far from there, who Home Depot has said that they've lost $millions in revenue because, again, our DA is not arresting for petty theft. So, maybe me and you, D, we can go to Home Depot. If you need a new drill, let's go get a drill, because we're not going to get arrested for, stealing a drill. So, I want to go drill. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know,
And like you said, it's just it's a lot of political speak without an actual plan, and that's where a lot of the you see task force and things like that are put up, and so some of them do maybe some good work, but a lot of the times it's just trying to silence a group of individuals who have been speaking up and trying to make change in their communities. And oftentimes, like you said, it just leads to a bunch of stuff said behind closed doors that the public doesn't get any access to, that you don't get to make your voice heard as a community member. It's just a bunch of bureaucrats and maybe a couple of community folks, but not an accurate representation of the folks that are actually being impacted by this. And like you said, it's if we're looking specifically even at results driven, metrics, if we're looking at numbers, and I, try and do things more humanly than that, talking to people instead of looking at numbers. But if we're just purely looking at numbers, this isn't led to a reduction in the need for those services, which is what you would hope, over time. It's actually seen kind of an over abundance and more folks needing those services than they can actually even offer. And it looks like, times have been cut shorter. There's no 24-hour care. It's 9 to 5 or whatever. And you only, you better only need help 9 to 5. If you need help other than that, there's no one there to help you. And it's like you said, it's inhumane. It just seems like they're not treating the folks who have the addictions with the compassion that they also deserve, as well as not able to help fix the issues that are going on in the community. It seems like they're just failing on all accounts. And there's, like I said, I commend you all, because it seems like the community, and oftentimes I see this, the community is doing much more to help this issue than the city or state is able to. But there are some steps I think that can be put in place, and you have done a great job, like I said, speaking with potential elected officials and elected officials that are in place to talk with them and even show them. And I heard you mention it before, and I actually saw some of the comments on the Facebook group of the or maybe on Twitter or something, of the poverty tourism or whatever. Yeah, your group was showing an elected official what was happening in the community to better help that community. There was no come one, come all. You were trying to help solve a problem, and that blew me away. I saw that, and that was one of the most egregious things I saw.
And I want us to talk about this, right? Because that comment was made by the founder of the what is it? She's under Cassie Miss Classy on Twitter, and she's the founder of the advocacy group who's advocating for safe consumption sites here in Mass. So to me, first of all, it's not our first encounter with her.
Yep.
That's our second encounter with her. The first encounter with this founder who's coming, and let me be clear, coming into our community, advocating for a service in our community, but right, yet treating us with total disrespect, which demonstrates a lot about her ability, about caring about not just the people that she serves, but the people that live in this community. Right. So she showed up with a group of other individuals, which I believe were from the Boston Users Union, came to one of our demonstrations, and she called us anti-poor, that we were anti-poor, that we were anti-homeless, and in my head, we should be anti-poor and anti-homeless. No one in the United States of America anywhere should be poor or should be homeless.
Right.
The government should be ashamed of themselves if people cannot provide a roof over their heads or food on the table. Everyone should be anti-homeless and anti-poor, because everyone deserves access to housing and food. Okay? Yeah. So we were taken back, and then as things started progressing, we found out who this individual was. And, we've been attacked a lot by the harm reduction lobbyists and people who are pushing for, the safe consumption sites. We've been clear so much that we said we're not against whatever services people think are going to work.
Right.
What we're saying is, how many more services can happen in one location?
Right.
You have, there's 7 methadone clinics within mile radius to each other. Right? So, we have a few, homeless shelters. How much more services have been put in that location that have repeatedly demonstrated that it's not working? What it's creating is more individuals coming
to
this community who are not being able to be served, because again, there's only so many beds in a shelter.
Right. Right. And especially when like you said, it's centralized in one spot, the more folks are going to come to that one spot, and there's only so much physical area that folks can utilize for those services. And it, like you said, it is got to be very, very difficult. And I think I think that immediate reaction and immediate kind of attack of the group, it just seems like there's a lack of willingness to talk and communicate. Because I think maybe a week into going on the page and taking a look at what people were posting and trying to interact with a few folks and going to a few of the forums that you host, I learned very quickly that you all wanted the ability to help these folks find their way into, even if it was safe consumption or the ability to get help that they need. It just needs to be done in a way that we're progressing towards helping those folks, and not just saying, okay, here's the location for you all, go there and magically something will happen.
Yeah.
It's not. And I think folks just get kind of stuck in their mind that if you're advocating for a decentralization of these services, or if you're advocating for that the issue is been so large because of the centralization, or what the kind of single point of trying to fix all of this issues, that you're immediately going after and saying, I don't want homeless people here, I don't want users here, I don't want. That's not the issue. It's, you want these folks to get help, you want these folks to have a home, you want these folks to be sober if that's what they are looking to do, you want these folks to be able to have the best life that they can, and it's just not happening, and you're seeing it get worse and worse every year instead of better and better. And I think people are missing that point, and they're not really seeing that it is a compassionate place you all are coming from, and you're trying to make it so, and you can only do so much. You have to lean on because the city has let it kind of get to the point where it's at. You can only do so much in order to kind of turn the ship and make it better, I guess, better for the community, better for the folks that are not receiving the services that they have. I think there's a lot there that's very compassionate, and folks that are just completely missing the point. I want to make sure folks know that I came in as an outside perspective, just joined and learned and trying to talk to as many folks as I possibly can. And I've learned that I didn't have a ton of hesitation because I was able to meet you all as people first, and then kind of learn more about how it went. But I think that's what people need to do, is start seeing people that they don't think they agree with as people. That's part of this whole show, is people with differing ideas coming together and trying to help their communities. And I think you all do an amazing job. I just wanted to kind of applaud all your effort. I mean, it's
Thank you.
amazing work. It is coming from such a compassionate place, and folks need to know that.
But what people have to understand is that what we're asking for are really, to decentralize the services.
Yep.
One location, right? And when we are saying decentralization of services, we're not saying that we don't want them there. What we're saying is that if we're going to invest in truly giving someone the opportunity to seek treatment and recovery, give them that opportunity somewhere where they can actually focus on that.
Right.
Have that ability and not step out of their treatment facility to be enticed to go back. That's
Right.
what we're saying. And then two, we're saying if individuals are coming from other communities, why are we not building relationships with other cities and towns to say, hey, it looks like we have 50 people here from Norwood, we have 20 people here from New Hampshire, or we have 15 people here from, Swampscott. I don't know.
Yep.
How are we building relationships with communities who are, because at the end of the day, before people become addicts and become homeless, at one point in time, they'd had somewhere to live, whether they were state of the wards, whether, they had a life before prison. And when they left prison, maybe the people that, help them, and whatever happened, then they end up homeless. But at one point in time, some of us may have had some form of roof over our heads, right? So then we're also thinking about some of these individuals may still be registered to live somewhere else. And those cities or towns are getting the funding that they get from the census, right?
Yep.
So then, the city of Boston is losing funding that could potentially go towards helping individuals. But we don't, there's also that part that a lot of people don't want to talk about, but it's real. It's a real.
Right. Absolutely.
And what we're saying is, you guys haven't done a survey in years, right? So there's no website that we can look at to say, 50 people are from here, 100. There's none of that.
Right.
And so we're saying you guys need to figure out like a tracking system, right? Because at this time, what needs to happen with methadone mild, there has to be a statewide approach for people to have shared responsibilities in their community to service those who are navigating addiction and homelessness in their own backyard. And again, it's not a bad thing. It's the reality. Is that people, it's just, we can't be the dumping grounds for everything because it's the city.
Right. And it's not only that it's trying, you're also able to then help if you're forming these relationships with those communities, you're then able to help feed that information back that, hey, there are a majority of folks coming from this one community. What's going on in that community? Because typically, as I've talked to folks who have a background in understanding addiction and things like, and I've tried to read as much as I possibly can on the issue. And it seems that trauma is a very real start. That's kind of the gateway drug, if you will, is trauma. And what's happening in those communities that we don't understand, that we now can understand because we have a little bit of the day, and not, individual, tracking a person, here or there, but just understanding what community is that person coming from and having a relationship with that community so you can give that kind of feedback as well. The funding is definitely a piece of it for sure, because of the way that the system is kind of built that way. But in kind of the other side of it too, you're just going to be able to help that community maybe realize a real problem that they've been ignoring because those folks are now moving to the centralized services that are in one city.
Yeah. And again, we live in a society that every community is, the fabrics of every community is different, right? And the reality is that what's happening in Boston is happening in your community. My community is happening in all the communities, some more exposed than others.
Yep.
And these are conversations that we have to have moving forward. We can't hide them or not put them out there because we don't want our properties to be devalued.
Right.
We don't want to have an open air market where people find out that in my community we do have, an opioid crisis. So we don't say this. We're just going to make this a Boston problem.
Right.
We have to have these conversations. And I think that a lot of what we're trying to do is say, guys, enough is enough. Let's have this uncomfortable conversation to finally just do something that benefits both those that are navigating substance use and those in the community who want to take their kids to the park.
Right.
We had kids from the Orchard Garden Elementary School that has been pricked by a needle. We had someone during the summertime disclose that their animal had swallowed a needle. So their vet bill was ridiculous.
Yeah.
Who's gonna pay for that vet bill?
Right.
It's not classy Miss Cassie, right? Foundation, or it's not the city, right? So why are we blamed as a group of individuals that are pointing these issues out to say, guys, you guys have to start even thinking about that. You got to think about, if somebody's child gets pricked, I'm assuming that family had to have sued or, had to get, their medical bills for something, is that costing you more? Like what is the plan? And, and even when we've seen the bill and what the safe injection lobbyists are lobbying for is they're seeking to have a 24-hour safe consumption site. That's already happening with or without the consumption site. They even wanted to have an opportunity to offer childcare. So most of us is like, okay, childcare, I get it. At the end of the day, some of these kids are witnessing this, but then where in that document shared, how are you helping that child
right
trauma, right? And now their parent is walking them to a safe consumption site while they're in a different room, being monitored by a nurse. You're in a playroom. Imagine if a nurse comes to you and you're in that playroom to tell you, honey, imagine that, right? And the trauma that you're going to go through. And so I'm like, in my head, we were asking, are you guys going to have trauma-informed licensed providers there to work with this child?
Right.
Or are you connecting this family with a stabilization team that can actually visit the family and stabilize the family as a whole and making this child is actually going to school and can produce in school? Or, there wasn't even a wraparound model for that, right? So we're sitting here like, guys, make it make sense for us to meet each other halfway on this. You know what I mean? It's just weird. Like you said, we're constantly being attacked, both on Facebook, on Twitter. We've, elected officials have some said that they've heard that we're a difficult group. No, we're not a difficult group. We're the only group that's trying to keep it real. We've given you plans and ideas after ideas. I mean, you guys are giving thousands of needles a month. You guys don't even barcode them. So you and I can go get a pack of needles. They don't need to know your name, my name.
Right.
It's illegally discarded in the community, right? But outside of you giving me that pack of needles, how are you engaging with me? Although I know that you guys have an engagement center, can they even think ahead progressively? Let me barcode this needle so that when I find them, I can actually track people. So then parents who've gone months without seeing their loved ones and are messaging us and saying, hey, can you help me locate my child? The needles can track someone to say, all right, we just gave this pack of needles to Joe, right? And we gave this pack of needles to Joe a week ago. So we've been picking up the needles and it seems like Joe might be still around this location. Let us keep an eye on Joe, right? So there's not even that. There's no tracking system.
Yeah, and it's interesting. I think there's a there's a lot of things that look good in policy that don't address the real issues, and I think that's a big piece of what I've learned, talking with you all is just there is a lot of gray area or whatever, things that can't be just applied a specific policy thing, I guess, that will help fix the entire thing. It's people engaging with people, understanding what the issues are, and like you said, the with a child care facility or something there, what are they doing for those children that are now maybe more likely to be brought there instead of before, where maybe other arrangements had to be made or whatever, and they weren't being brought into that kind of environment. Are we creating a problem for the future? Are we, there's a lot there that just seems to be overlooked. And oftentimes I think people are trying to, and I think there are a lot of folks that are trying to do their best that do come up with bad policy as well. I'm not saying that these folks are being targeting or being actively trying to hurt the community, but they don't realize that that the end result, it does hurt the community. And I think, there's you all making the voice heard of a large portion of that community because of the partnerships and the groups that have kind of joined in and tried to help out, whether it be a former addict that was, on methadone mile in the past and has recovered, or folks that are just trying to help the folks that are there, or the folks that are talking about trying to make their community better for their children. I think it's those conversations and the conversations that we're having that need to happen in order for it to be fixed. And it's not going to be fixed by someone coming in and saying, okay, we're going to do this one thing that's going to fix everything tomorrow. This is going to be a long process that folks in the community need to be engaged on, or it'll just continue to be perpetuated as a bigger and bigger problem, especially as we see, we're seeing use rise dramatically, even still with a lot of things put in place. So I think hard conversations, just if you don't have them, you're never going to determine ways to actually improve the issue, instead of, kind of applying band-aids that are just not working.
And we've had conversations with these individuals while we're giving out food and clothes. Right. They're human beings, and we're not judging them. Sometimes we've even picked up our phone to let them. We've even said, "Hey, when was the last time you talked to your mom, your dad, or the sad face and feeling ashamed?" And we're like, "No, man, here, take the phone, call your mom." People are not doing that, right?
Right.
So when we're there, we're not giving them a sandwich and saying, "Listen, with this sandwich, I'm gonna need you to check in." No, come back down. And every time I see you, I'm gonna ask you the same question. Hey, how are you? How you feeling? Do you know who to call? Do you, and that simple engagement, I think it's been instrumental, because at the end of the day, they're still human beings, right? And regardless of how upset we are for the other stuff that's impacting our community, our cars, everyone in this group is super empathetic, and many of us have family members who've been on the mile,
right,
who have suffered from addiction. There's no one in anywhere that can say that they don't have someone in their family that's not addicted to, whether it's drugs, alcohol, or something, right? Yep. Addiction is real. And overall, this is sad. And for me, I just want to see people really be treated with the respect and the dignity they deserve to really get clean and get re-established with their family and enjoy holidays with their families, or whatever the case may be. That's all we really want, because what's happening here is just inhumane.
Yeah, no, and I like I said, I can't applaud you all more. It's folks in the community talking with folks that are on the mile, that's going to fix this issue. Again, it's not someone trying to apply these band-aids that are not working, and trying to gain political points or whatever. It's people who are actually speaking to the folks who need the services to figure out what would be beneficial, or folks who have been able to leave sober, or helped after. What was the turning point? What helped you kind of get to what you needed, and how do we make more of that available, kind of thing? So I think this is great. I enjoyed talking with you so much. If you have anything else you want to plug before kind of the end, you're more than welcome to.
No, I mean, I know that we have a training for the community, because we also find that a lot of the community members who are not super politically involved, they don't understand how to navigate systems. So it's frustrating, because we're kind of like, why are we still having the same conversation 20, 30 years later? So we have a training coming up on February 23rd with a partnership with Act on Mass, who's basically going to do a political 101 workshop for the community, so that they can understand that why it is important to hold your elected officials to task, why emails are good, and, understanding exactly where to look for the website to find bills and all that information. Yeah. So we're have that, and we're still going to continue our efforts in doing live streams on the conversation. Follow us on Twitter, CSEROXBUR, South End Roxbury. So we're on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We also have the Facebook group page if you want to join us, and there's anything that you want to help us with, that you have strategies or something that you've seen in another community that works, bring that energy to us, help us. We're a very open group. join us. And, we're here, like I said, Dee, I'm here. My mom has been robbed in form of needle. The needle was full of blood when my mom was robbed. And I'm still here showing, because what I was really thinking when my mom called me and told me that, I can't even put it out here because I was
Right.
really angry. But then in my head, it's like, Mom, these individuals need help, but I'm here and we're here, and all we want to do is really help people get the help that they need. And, other communities to step up and say, we have a drug issue in our communities, and we need to help support Boston in this situation.
Yeah, no, I appreciate it, and I appreciate you coming on. I appreciate you telling folks in the post political podcast community about it. I'm gonna put all the links that you mentioned in the comments so that folks can find you. And I think, like I said, I thank you so much for coming on and talking about this with me. It's opened my eyes a bunch to kind of the issue for everyone in the community. I think that's one of the, it says it right in the description of the group. And it's really true. You're trying to make it better for every single person in that community, including folks on the mile in the youth facilities. So thank you. Thank you for all the work that you're doing as well. I mean, it's incredible. Really. Thank you.
No, thank you. It was dope being here, y'all. And also, if y'all want to follow me, shameless plug, please follow me personally. I am under the Twitter handling and social media handling. I am the Momvocate, mom and advocate put together. I'm an amazing mom of 2 boys. One of my sons is on the autism spectrum. I'm also the founder of Autism Sprinters. So outside of this advocacy, I do a lot of work in ensuring that families who have special needs children know how to navigate systems, how to get access to resources, and how to fight, for the special education rights for their children. So that's just me.
Oh, that's great. Maybe we can have you back on to talk about that. Maybe actually my wife and you can talk, because my wife is a special education teacher. So I think that would be, that's very wonderful as well, that you help in, many different ways. So thank you so much again. And it was great talking with you. Have a great night. Well, that was great. I am, even more understanding and knowledgeable, I guess, of this, the entire situation than I was before. I in no means don't think I have a full handle on it. I definitely am very interested in learning as much as possible. I think problems like these in our communities are multiple, aren't a one size fits all kind of Band-Aid fix. We really do need to make sure we're engaging with the folks, not only that we're trying to help, but other folks in the community as well, to make sure that, helping out one group isn't hurting kind of the next. And it's something that I think, we can look at, this issue that's happening in Boston and, expand it to other issues that we have in many of our communities. We think that we can fix things with applying one law or one program that will hope to fix everything, and in reality it could have some unintended outcomes that do hurt other members of the community. So I hope we're having the conversations. I hope you all are interested, inspired, and check out the links that I'm going to post in the comments after the show. And I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Post Political Podcast. Thanks.